Why, hello, everyone. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Ben. I'm very sure that this is a very different time than what you're usually used to when I stream. Hopefully this is better, so there's a multitude of differences, right? So this is actually morning my time, so hopefully the internet's better. Tell me if it's a bit laggy or something like that. I will try to address that as soon as I can. Is there anything else that I have to go over? Not really. Do tell me if there's a delay in the stream or anything like that. So welcome to the Devastation of Indians Playtest live stream, where we will be going through all of the Devastation cards. Okay, well, maybe I should temper your expectations. We're not gonna actually go through every single Devastation card. So Zeta slow. Ironically, you know, you made it on time, which is very beautiful, like math. 12 was a good game, by the way. So hello everyone, welcome to the stream. We're going to be going over a lot of Devastation characters. I'm going to be pointing out 4 characters that have changed considerably. And it's going to be very fun, and we're going to talk about them. But then we're going to be talking about some of the... This is a balance / templating pass. So a lot of the characters have actually received gameplay changes. So some of your old favorites now have different cards, can have different effects, but do note that this is still in testing, so there might be a lot of wording mistakes, a lot of things that should be a certain way but aren't, and a lot of things that are powerful or too good that were probably just because of a result of a misprint. So let's move over to the game board. Is the game board appearing? I would really absolutely love to just Alt-Tab and check my streaming software, but this is the ultimate irony of Tabletop Simulator. There you go. There it is. There's the game board. All right, everyone. So, what are we looking at here? This is the updated Devastation bag. So, unfortunately for our non-playtesting fans, the cards are not yet available on the public test module, mostly because all of these cards are still in testing and we need to go through another pass before we put it up on the public module. So I will introduce all of you to 3 familiar yet very different looking faces. So, Gaspar, Joel, Lissandra. Let's make this like a choose-your-own-adventure Bandersnatch style. Who do you want me to talk about first between Gaspar, Joel, Lissandra? Take your pick. It'll be a nice talk. And I know that Bandersnatch is not the first instance of interactive multimedia, but hey. Yes, indeed, Gerard. It does indeed begin. So, we have our 3 characters. Gaspar, somebody in chat saying Gaspar. Anybody else? Anybody else? Come on, chant your favorite character. It's either Gaspar, Joel, or Lissandra. Second Gaspar. That's funny because Gaspar has clones. So there could be 2 of him. So that's 2 votes for Gaspar, 1 vote for Lissandra, no vote for my boy Joel? I think my vote counts for 1,000,000, right? Just kidding. All right, so it seems like chat wants us to talk about Gaspar. Enderbit, Charles. Enderbit. We can talk about Enderbit later. Enderbit is wild and he has 20-something cards. Can you spare my sanity? Oh, what's this? 2 bases? For the next stream, I plan on getting different music. Lim? Oh, come on, Kevin. You've played Lim. It's fine. All right. Let's talk about Gaspar. Long text. Oh boy. And this is one of the main reasons why we had to do the templating rules change. This is because a large majority, and I mean a large majority, of complicated characters get way easier to implement the moment you make everything clear, right? Let's talk about this UA. Gaspar has a cloned card and a clone marker. These together can perform additional attacks during the beat if he sacrifices bases to activate them. So during setup, Gaspar places the clone in the furthest space in the arena. Trash your dodge base. This means that let's move some pieces around so that the game board is visible. Well, that's annoying. Anyway, this means that yes, indeed, if we spawn a go piece that's black, Gaspar starts with a clone here. So Gaspar starts with a clone here. That's what that ability is saying, right? Oh, this is going to be frustrating. Let me just delete hands. There you go. And I should probably just delete all the snapping points on this side of the board so we don't snap the cards together all the time. Bam. All right. Let's fix this. By the way, somebody tell me if the stream ever lags or something like that. All right. So let's go back to the UA. So during the anti phase, as an anti, Gaspar may shift the clone 0 to 1 spaces. Shift is simply the word for move a marker 0 to 1 spaces, right? So you can move it here, you can move it there, so on and so forth. Into an unoccupied space. If the clone space is unoccupied, activate your cloned card and place a base other than warp from your hand on it. Again, this is an old version of this card. I believe that you can now put warp on it, so this is actually just like an old version. So so place a base on it, even if it's warped, okay? Don't let this text fool you. You can place warp on the base. So for the rest of the beat, the clone becomes an allied fighter that executes the attack pair on your cloned card. Clone. While clone is a fighter, opponents treat it as a stand-up when moving and can target it with attacks. It can be stunned, but has no life and cannot be eliminated. See multiplayer rules for more information. Boom. Here's why a lot of the effects in the game have to kind of take multiplayer into mind. Or rather, why we kind of templated the game in such a way that multiplayer wouldn't be crazy is because a lot of the characters actually benefit from having those kinds of things more clear, especially more of the complicated characters. Having those multiplayer things very clear, just makes everything way easier. Then end of beat, deactivate your clone card, discard any base that was on it. So I believe here's basically what happens with Gaspar. Number one, you just get rid of dodge, right? Oh, there's your dodge. No, it doesn't exist anymore. Bam. You don't have dodge. Gaspar just doesn't, straight up just doesn't have dodge. Right? So during the anti-phase, after Gaspar, say, has placed down his attack pair, I don't know, whatever, right? Oh, I've placed down my attack pair. You have a cloned card that's face down. When you want to activate your clone, you activate the clone and you put it here, creating the attack pair cloned drive. So due to multiplayer rules, a lot of jank happens, but really what happens here is that you and the clone now act as a team of fighters as if you were playing a multiplayer mode, which means that the clone's interactions are no longer ambiguous. And when the clone is a fighter, it's always a fighter, and when the clone's a marker, it's a marker. That's it. So the moment you decide to put a base on the clone is now a fighter. Wholesale. Like, it doesn't become a marker midway through the game, midway through the beat. It's always just an opponent, right? There is an exception in the form of replicated, which allows the clone to be a marker at the start of the turn, and then after Gaspar activates, the clone becomes a fighter. But outside of that, there is no ambiguity anymore. Clone is always a fighter, or clone is a marker. Bam. Easy, done. The clone card specifically does this. When the clone is stunned, Gaspar becomes stunned and suffers chip 2. The clone is vulnerable, which means that it will always be stunned by any damage it takes, except if the clone has stun immunity. That's valuable for this specific card, Bladestorm, because you can do cloned Bladestorm and clone has stun immunity. Recycle. Discard the base on this card and deactivate this card. So that's really all there is to it. So many of you might be wondering, hey, wait a minute. If Gaspar doesn't have dodge, then what does he have? Well, welcome to Warp. Let's do the cloned Warp again. Warp is his version of dodge. Instead of being able to just advance or retreat 3, Gaspar teleports to the clone space, and then the clone enters the space that Gaspar left. So they swap places, right? If you move past the opponent, you avoid attacks. But note that Warp only works if your clone is inactive, which means that you can't dodge on the same turn that you make your clone do an attack. So say if your clone is active, you don't actually get to Warp. You have to do the secondary part of Warp, which is before cloned active, advance or retreat Gaspar 1 to 2, and then advance or retreat clone 1 to 2. So Warp now has a dual purpose. If your clone is not attacking, it's basically a dodge. If your clone is attacking, it allows you to move the clone 1 to 2 spaces and allows you to move 1 to 2 spaces. So this creates a lot of weird situations because Gaspar and the new multiplayer movement rules are very different. So say the clone does cloned grasp, right? Here's what you can do. You can make Gaspar advance here, and then so we're doing Warp, right? Let's have this be the opponent, right? So there you go. So we're doing Warped. So Warp allows you to before advance or retreat the clone. Oh wait, we can't do it there. We have to give the clone a slower attack. There you go. So we do cloned strike, and then we do, I don't know, switch warp. So cloned strike is only 4 priority, and switch warp is 5, which means Gaspar goes before the clone. Gaspar can now, since the clone is active, advance or retreat Gaspar 1 to 2 spaces. So let's say we retreat Gaspar 1 space. Then you can advance or retreat the clone 1 to 2 spaces. The new multiplayer rules say that if there is a stand-up, you hop over them. So you can make the clone advance to here, and then hit their clone strike from that range. You know what's even more wacky? Is if Gaspar started here, Gaspar could, in very theory, use the before activating to advance to, then have the clone advance to. Huh? 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 Gordian, Bladestorm. Gordian is disgusting. And then so is Bladestorm. Bladestorm is also disgusting. Yeah, so the thing about it is that this version of Gaspar might be too good. He has a lot of ways to instantly just lock out the opponent and then like deal 7 damage in a single turn uncontested. So it might be rough, but there you go. That's Gaspar. I would love to go over the individual cards, but I don't think that's very useful. Mostly because I feel like just giving all of you a general gist of what the new update is like is the goal of this stream. It's not to look at each individual card and then have everybody go like, oh, well, that's cool. I mean, like, that would be a fun stream to do, but we have 30 characters to look at, and that's a lot. We're not going to be able to do it for all 30 characters. Yep, Daniel is indeed a Gaspar main, so it would be very interesting to hear his opinions about it. So, people voted for Lissandra next, so let's do Lissandra. early on, you're going to see the very big difference for Lissandra over here. So, the big difference for Lissandra is that she's received a huge power nerf. Not in terms of power, but in terms of the fact that she's not as strong as she used to be. Lissandra was indeed one of the top 5 strongest characters in the entire game. That's been mitigated somewhat. Her unique abilities changed. So, setup, you have Borneo active. Wait, we need to spawn Lissandra's familiars. There you go. So to begin with, you start with Borneo active. What's next? Other familiars are inactive, which means they're face down. Note that this is also a placeholder back. That will likely have Lissandra art on the back instead of this. So blood. Your blood value is equal to the amount of damage you dealt during this beat. Then end of beat as an optional effect, spend any amount of life to increase your blood by that amount. Then activate a familiar with a blood cost equal to or lower than your blood. Huh? Ah. Ryan, multiplayer rules make it so that the nearest opponent is the attack target. Nope. If 2 targets are within your range, you get to pick. Do the other fighters get more or less complicated from here? Obviously less, because Gaspar is a nightmare for newer players to play. Excuse me. Yay summons, yay summons. So that's really it. So now the thing about Lissandra is that you deal damage and then you increase a value called blood, and that determines what familiars you can summon. And here are your familiars. So Borneo just gives you a tiebreaker, and then anti-trash this for +2 blood. But note one big difference. It doesn't say anything about having one familiar out at a time. This means that Lissandra can actually have more than one familiar up now. Which means that she can have 5. All 5 of her familiars up, and then it'll look cool, and you'll be like a goddess among men. So, note that there's also a big difference in how her familiars work. Mostly the anti. So before, you used to be able to anti and then summon, and then use the familiar's effect, and then the familiar would deactivate, right? No longer the case. If you anti the familiar, it disappears forever. This applies to all familiars. Trash this, trash this, trash this, trash this. All of them trash themselves. So you only get one use of that familiar's anti. So here are the familiars. Borneo gives you a tie break and increases your blood on anti. The Wyvern makes you avoid long-ranged attacks and then allows you to trash it to advance or retreat 1 to 2. I know people are going to point out that this is probably broken. Yes, it probably is. Avoid attacks at range 4+ permanently, and no way to avoid it is really rough against ranged characters. This might change to be more of a specific range, like avoid attacks at range 4 or something like that. Rune Knight, +2 guard, and then damage taken also adds to your blood. This means that if you hit the opponent for 5 and you get hit for 3, you get 7 blood. That's a lot of blood. Salamander is still very powerful, gives you +1 power on all of your attacks, and note that Lissandra already has +1s and +2s on a lot of her attacks. And then you can trash it to ignore armor and guard. Finally, the Raven Guide allows you to continuously chip the opponent for 1 every turn, and then trash this for +4 priority, making you really fast. Hey, look, it's Brian. What's up, Brian? What? You are looking at updated Lissandra. So here are her cards now. So Guardian is, it just gives you some guard. Get it? It's Guardian. It gives you some guard, then end of beat, it gives you bonus blood. So notice how a lot of her cards have lost their, hey, look, let's just give this character +0 to range and everything. I mean, she still retains that identity. A lot of her cards still have good range. It's just that she doesn't just have it forever, infinitely anymore. Salamander costs 6. Yep. I mean, it's not that hard to get to 6. You hit the opponent for 4, and then you play Guardian Strike. That's 7 blood. That's it. You just have to hit your attacks now, right? So windows around the same. But the weird thing now is that window doesn't force you to discard your familiar to get the range. Rather, window just always has the range, but if you do damage the opponent, then you're forced to deactivate your familiar. Invocation is around the same. You gain armor for your familiar. And if you take too much damage, you lose your power. Note that this thing is really weird. Probably you should play Invocation shots, or should only play Invocation when you already have Rune Knight and another familiar up so that you can get 4 effective stun guard. So like, notice how there's more requirements to make your cards work, as opposed to just, hey, any attack pair I play will work. Pack Breaker is very interesting now because start a beat, you can either choose to trash a familiar or spend 3 life for plus 3 blood. This means that you don't always have to get rid of a familiar to do a Pack Breaker. You can now just spend life to do it, which is really good because it builds up your blood. So a simple Pack Breaker drive, for example, could easily get you to the Raven Knight territory. What do you mean? What does the familiars? What does the familiars keyword mean? No, familiars are just the name of these things. And yes, as it is written, she can have more than one familiar up at a time, which means you can have a basketball team of familiars. Oh, you mean familiars 1+. Okay. So +1 active familiars. 1+ active familiars means 1 or more active familiars, right? So if you have at least 1, it doesn't stack. If it would stack, it would simply have more triggered effects that say different things. A character that does that would be Lim. I need to show you Lim just to show you an example of something that would stack. Where's Lim? Lym. LKLL. There you go. Lim. So one of Lim's cards, specifically Chimeric, will easily show this off. So see, this one says start greater than 2, start greater than 4, start greater than 6. So these would stack for a total of +6 power, right? You can talk about Lim another time. But not right now. We're talking about Lissandra. Okay, so does trashing a familiar to Pack Breaker gain you blood? No, it does not It does not gain you blood that way. You're talking about Borneo, right? No. The effects are not when they're trashed, they do a thing. It's like when you anti them, they get trashed after they do their thing. Soul King, Chip is lose life. Yeah. It's now so lose life is now just chip. That way it's more fighty gamey, I guess. So binding is no longer incomprehensible. So now binding just gets super strong if the opponent moves and gets hit by binding. It's still a very powerful attack, so it's hit the opponent moved, I gain +2 power and regain 2 life. A really powerful attack, super positive traits. Excuse me. And finally, we move on to summons. So summons is no longer broken. Because for people who don't know, summons used to say start a beat, move the opponent directly to any space adjacent to Lissandra, which essentially meant that the opponent could never get away from Lissandra. Wild and wacky. Now summons is just a side strike that allows Lissandra to push or pull opponent 1 space, which is very powerful because it just combos with everything. Like Invocation works with it, Backbreaker, everything works with it. Like she would still be able to create effective range 1 to 3 attacks with Summon, which is part of her identity anyway, so that's really good. Yes, trashing the familiar to Packbreaker is purely a negative effect. It's a cost you pay. It's a cost you pay to play Packbreaker. Because any card with this stat line is good. If a card has +0 to 2, +2, +1, it's a good card. Sorry, plus 0 to 1. And yes, Gerard is correct. If you cannot afford to spend the 3 life, you must trash a familiar. There you go. We probably need to fix the templating on this, because currently as it is, if you have 0 familiars, you can just choose to trash a familiar, then the effect fizzles. Again, part of the templating problems with this, so it probably needs to be worded in a different way. I have no idea. So her finishers used to be the same, basically. Oh, except Invoke Dusk Stalker used to allow you to essentially gain the Raven Knight for free. So like Invoke Dusk Stalker would bring in the Raven Knight. But that's eh. Hi Kurthleet, blood is a new keyword for Lissandra specifically. Blood is equal to the amount of damage you dealt this beat. Sorry, excuse me. And blood is used to pay for your familiars. Yes, there is a mechanical difference between spend X life and chip X. So for first, spend is if you cannot spend X, you do not get the effect. So for example, an effect says, spend 3 life for plus 3 blood. If you have less than 3 life, or exactly 3 life, you cannot use that effect because you cannot spend 3 life. You cannot spend more life than you have. So that's the big difference. There you go. So that's Lissandra. Is the stream lagging, by the way? If it's not, then I've found the correct time to stream every time. So that's both of y'all's. Let's move on to my boy Joel. Joel has a lot of cards, so we're gonna have to be efficient. So what's big about Joel? There's not much of a big difference with Joel. Joel still has the same unique ability, which allows you to essentially create your own starting hand of bases. The big changes here are on his cards and his overall theme as a character. So the big thing about Joel is that he's a weapons master, and basically he wasn't really fair. He was playing a bit too fair, right? Like, he had good attacks, but they were pretty boring and not really fun to interact with. So we've changed a few things about him. So dual wield now has guard. Interesting. But now has before range not NA. Swap your base with a base from your stockpile. Then continue resolving this attack using the new base. This changes the way dual wield works completely. Because number one, it doesn't take a base from your hand anymore. You have to take a base from stockpile. This means that Joel's decisions during the start of the game are super interesting, because sometimes you want a card, but you want to keep it inside your stockpile so that you can dual wield it out later. Isn't that awesome? Oh, isn't that awesome? It's so cool. Such a cool card. And now it no longer makes you lose cards from your hand, because old dual wield made you discard the base you played on dual wield. So yeah, it's way cooler now. It also has extra guard so that it functions better with cards like Rune Blade and Hand Cannon. It lost the speed that we gave it before, but it's fine. Dual wield is now way more interesting. And also works with dodge now, so you can dual wield dodge if you desperately need to. Not that it matters, since you can't use the before effect if you dodge because your range is NA, right? Rip dual wheel dash. I mean, yes, rip dual wheel dash and rip dual wheel dodge. But at the same time, we lost that already in the Devastation update like months ago. So it's completely fine. Good card. Cutthroat is still the same Cutthroat. Still good, still fun. Warded has changed, right? So Warded no longer does this weird thing where it's like, yeah, your on-hit effects don't activate anymore, blah, 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 blah. Warded now rewards Joel both ways. If the opponent is faster than Joel, Joel gets armor and guard. Magical stun guard 3. So that's really good. So if your opponent's attack is fast, Warded will push through because you have enough stun guard. But if you go faster than the opponent, that is to say if you're active player, the opponent discards a base when you hit them. That's awesome. So this is a card that's like, you know, at worst, I still get to attack, and at best, my opponent discards a base. A very effective card, very powerful. The key to Joel's identity is always being prepared, and so his cards kind of just always work. Like, there's never a time where his cards just don't work, and that's really cool. Slayers. Slayers has changed. So Slayer's identity is still like, this is the card that you use if you want to get more bases from your stockpile. But now it's not paired with dodge constantly because now Slayers is a hit effect. So you have to hit with Slayers to make it work. As compensation, however, Slayers now has range and priority as opposed to just being a blank style. So Joel has actually gotten added range because of Slayers. Congratulations, Joel. Next up is Relentless. So Relentless was actually one of Joel's key problem cards before because it would simply just do reductive attacks. Because Relentless would just have enough stun guard always, would always just trade 5/5, and it would just be a dumb attack. Now Relentless has some counterplay to it because the opponent... So now it's not as slow as it used to be. It's now -1 priority instead of the -3 or -4. -3 or -2 it used to be. But now Relentless has a bigger payout. If you were hit, you gain +3 power. So Relentless is actually now more powerful and can deal way more damage than it used to. But now you have to actually be smart with how you use it, which I feel like is a good and healthy change. Yes, all the cards. Guard is now just a stat. Who was there? Ryan Torres. I'm liking new dual wield even though it's not super powerful. So you'd think it's not super powerful. You would think that. I can completely agree why you would think that it's not super powerful. But wait, just you wait, okay? There is a reason why dual wield is not as strong as it used to be. This is because people are probably thinking about like how old dual wield used to interact with dodges and dashes, but also because dual wield used to let you attack twice. Yes, it is included in the upgrade kit. You don't have to buy anything else. If you've backed Unleashed, you just get all the cards ever made for free. There you go. All right, so dual wield. So let's get to the bases and why dual wield is probably not as bad as you think it is. Knuckle. Knuckle used to just say 1, 2, 5, 0, ignore armor. But look at this hit effect. Advance or retreat 1, the opponent is vulnerable next beat. What's vulnerable, you may ask? Vulnerable is a new keyword that just means the opponent loses all soak and stun guard, which means that they will get stunned by any damage they take. Unless, of course, they have stun immunity. This means that if Joel hits Knuckle next turn, your opponent cannot play strikes, shots, or any slow attack because they will get stunned. So now you might be seeing what's awesome, right? If you dual wield with an attack that's consistent, say dual wield shot, or dual wield Iron Star, or dual wield Rune Blade, or dual wield drive. Dual wield drive's the big thing here. You can then swap in Knuckle to then make your opponent vulnerable next turn, which allows you to essentially set up combo turns where on this turn I play my dual wield drive. advance into your face, and then play Knuckle. And then next turn, I play my Slayer's Grasp or whatever. And then you get stunned immediately, and I pick up a stockpile card. Which was the drive that I threw to dual wield, right? Because dual wield swaps it with a card in your stockpile. So what would happen is the drive would enter your stockpile, and your Knuckle would be the new dual wield attack. So you wouldn't have drive anymore, but then next turn, since your opponent is vulnerable, you can almost always safely Slayer's Grasp and then stun them out of their attack, and then pick up the drive you just threw away. Huh? 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 Soul King, nope, you were wrong. We are reprinting everything. Every single card. Yeah, so you won't get like war stand-ups or whatever, but you will get like an updated style for every character. Yep, pretty much. Okay, let's keep going. Binding Knife. Ooh, woo. People used to think Binding Knife was like the worst Joel base. Read this card. Range 1, Power 2, Priority 4, Before. Optional, Advance 1. Not too scary. Hit. Joel gets Armor 2, which is the new keyword for Soak. Next beat, the opponent cannot advance. Good luck dodging me, my friend. So again, how does this interact with dual wield? Say I play dual wield drive into your face, switch it to Binding Knife, before advance 1, and then I hit you, and next turn you can't dodge. So what if the opponent was, say, just in the corner like this, and you were here? Let's play dual wield drive, and then I bring in Binding Knife, I advance here, and then I hit the opponent for 2 damage, but I gain 2 armor, and then the opponent can't advance next beat. So now they're stuck in the corner, and then I can play Slayers, I can play Warded, I can play Cutthroat, I can play a variety of things, and my opponent will just get really sad. Huh? 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 Yes. So EX and Almighty are now straight up stat upgrades as opposed to just changing the character's UA to compensate. Mostly because the compensation is usually not worth it. And yeah, they just get straight up stat upgrades. It's a dodge punish. Let's keep going. Hand cannon is 2-5, 3-3-2, right? And this is just more wild than it used to be. So old hand cannon, if you hit it, it just moved the opponent 1 to 2 spaces. Now what happens is if you hit hand cannon, you push the opponent as far as possible. Then before next beat, you get before advance 1 to 2, and then this beat you advance 1 to 2 end of beat. So again, it's more combo corner stuff, right? The opponent gets pushed, Joel essentially gets the close in. More combo corner stuff. And because of the nature of it, if you do end up at this positioning and you go here, your opponent can't dodge you. So again, you're punishing dodges once more, because even if they try to dodge, they're not going to be enough. And because you get that before advance 1 to 2, if you play an attack with range 1 to 2, you will always hit your opponent. Again, Joel's identity as a like 2-turn setup dodge punisher is like real. It is like so good. Alright, and of course, Runeblade is still the same. Oh, wait, no, it's not. So you thought Runeblade was good? Read this new text. So it has the same stats, but on hit, you regain 2 life, and next beat, you have +2 power. You can just set up more power next turn. Oh my god, New Joel is so great. So that's the identity of New Joel, is that he's a 2-turn setup combo character. But the setup turn is not just dodging, and that's the big deal. The setup turn is usually hitting with a base that gives you a buff next turn that then helps your combo continue. And if you keep hitting with your unique bases, you can just keep combo chaining effect after effect after effect, and it's really cool. And you thought Iron Star couldn't get better? Not only is it 140 stun immunity, not only is it opponent cannot advance past you, next beat you just have +2 armor. So yeah, that's Joel. That's the updated Joel. Is this a buff? Yes. Yes, it is absolutely a buff. It is absolutely one of the best buffs in the entire freaking game. But that is absolutely fine. Because Joel wasn't really top tier anyway. And Joel is now more fun. And today you learned Joel hates dodges more than Kadar. Joel has like 3 ways to counter dodges. And it's wild, right? So here's the ways you can counter dodges. Iron Star, Binding Knife, right? So that's 2 ways. And you think, oh, that's good enough. But wait, there's more. Cutthroat allows you to counter dodges by just playing a faster attack. So if you're like this, right? You can just Cutthroat, start to beat advance here, and then play Cutthroat shots. Or Cutthroat hand cannons. So that's another way to dodge counter. You have so many ways to dodge counter. It's wild. So you have like 3 ways to dodge counter. I think that's it. Dual wield is always a pseudo dodge counter if your stockpile is set up correctly, which again makes Joel more interesting. But there you go. Joel just has so many ways to counter dodge. It's crazy. So the stun immunity is gonna stay there, mostly because it makes it clear, because some people might just get confused. It's fine. The real reason, yeah, it's just there. We currently are gonna keep it there because a lot of the time cards with stun immunity don't really have a lot of text on them anyway. So that's usually it. All right, stream. I'm gonna be. I have to go do something for a bit. I have to get some glass of water. I need to hydrate. Hydrating is important while streaming, I've been told. So I'm gonna. This is gonna be a long stream, by the way, since it's not evening for me. I can stay on for much longer. So while you all are waiting for me to come back from my water break, do take some time to vote on who you want to do next. I will do any of the Devastation characters, including Gar and Kay. So be right back, everyone. sorry, everyone. The mic. Hello, everyone. I'm back. Apologies about that. The mic went crazy. So I should be back. Let's see who you all voted for. Oh, the mic didn't mute? Unfortunately. I'm sorry. That was supposed to have been a muted mic. Alright, stay hydrated. So, we got some votes for Tanis. We got some votes for Sagas. We got some votes for Tanis. I mean, Brian, you just missed us talking about Gaspar for like a good 20 minutes. Alright, let's talk about Tanis then. This was all a trap, by the way, because if nobody voted for anything, I was gonna pick Tanis anyway. Haha! I've tricked all of you. No, but seriously, let's go. The mic was supposed to mute. I'm sorry, everyone. Vote for Zach. Unfortunately, Zach is not a Devastation character. Alright, everyone, let's talk about Tanis. So, Tanis' unique ability, she has 3 puppets. So now the way she cycles through her puppets, it's a bit different. So during setup, place a puppet in each space adjacent to your stand-up. The 3rd puppet remains in your supply. So now she just straight up, you know... I believe her puppets are here. I mean, I don't believe. I know that her puppets are here. There you go. So you can just do like, oh, I'll put Mephisto. Okay, so let's just actually make it correct. I'll put Loki down here, and then I'll put Ares here, and then Mephisto will be off the board. So that's how her startup goes. Possessed. The puppet in your supply is considered possessed. So that just means that you're possessing Mephisto right now. Withdraw a puppet in an unoccupied space to teleport to its space. If you moved, place the other puppet from your supply into the space you left. It essentially means that, for example, so withdraw a puppet, you go here, and then Mephisto goes there. That's it. And that's simply just how she works. So yes, this does indeed mean that she can just cycle between the same 2 puppets over and over again. But it's just to simplify the character's effects. And this also means that you can no longer quote-unquote puppet lock Tanis, which is interesting. Oh, sure, I'll do... It's okay. That's fine. Are you sure, Molly? It's okay if Zach doesn't get re-updated. It's fine. For people who don't know, Zach is a custom character I made, who is a small Victorian-era K-On! Boy. Alright. Do Clint Hyde next? We can do Clint Hyde next after we do some sagas. I think 2 people voted for sagas at this point. And no, Twy, we're not doing Lim yet, even though I brought her kit out. Anyway, let's look at Tanis. So the big thing about Tanis is that she's received some nerfs, because hashtag Tanis is one of the best characters in the game. The biggest problem being Playful. Because holy heck, was Playful weird before. So old Playful essentially allowed you to clone... Oh wait, we can't do sagas. We don't have updated sagas yet. What are we talking about? So Playful used to let you just clone steal your opponent's stat bonuses and stuff. So now it's just different. Now it kind of just works like Storyteller, wherein it gives you different bonuses depending on who you're possessing. So you possess Ares, you cause a clash, so you can just free clash with Playful. That's really good. If Mephisto's possessed, you get to copy your opponent's power, and then if Loki's possessed, you copy their range. Simple, easy. Less good than old Playful, for sure, but that clash tech is still spicy. So Storyteller is around the same. So Mephisto ignores guard, Loki avoids attacks at range 1, and Ares allows you to advance 1 to 3. Valiant is around the same. it's less good because it has less soak, but you now have +2 guard, so now Valiant can just work with almost anything. And note the change here that is big is that it now says the opponent cannot enter Loki's space, which means that Tanis can now move through Loki, which means now Valiant Scene Shift is an actual valid attack pair. Climactic is it allows you to swap places with Mephisto, and then it ignores armor. Same thing. But now the ignore armors if they're on a puppet. Distressed is still the same thing. It allows you to either move the thing towards Eris or move the thing away from Eris if they're on Eris. And then end of beat, optional, shift the puppet 1 to 6. This is literally the same thing as just move the puppet to any space on the board. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they're here, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So literally shift 1 to 6 is the same thing as move the puppet anywhere on the board. And scene shift. Before, advance 1 to 4. It's the same attack. But note, there's a templating change here, right? The range is not applicable, and then the before effect changes your range to 1 to 6. This is now how attacks that are like, if you switch sides with the opponent, this attack hits, or blah, blah, blah. That's just how they're templated now, right? The range is always NA, and then it does the thing. So this is the template for the attack doesn't hit unless you do a thing. So there you go. That's the new templating for an attack like Scene Shift. But yes, there you go, Tanis mains. Tanis is no longer as broken as she used to be. So there. Sagas is from War. Melandrax? Sorry, do people say Melandrax or Malandrax? Either way, it's wild. So that's some Tanis boys and gals and non-binary pals. Ayy. Alright. So that's Tanis' kit. That's how she be. Let's shove Tanis back into the box. Get back in there, you ghost. Okay. So people voted for Lim. Okay, you know what? Let's go Lim. Since we've already brought her bag out. Is Lim a her? Is Lim or... I have no idea if Lims are her. It doesn't matter. Lim is Wolf. All right, so we'll do it in this order. We'll do Lim, and then we'll do Clint Hyde, and then we'll move on to Mally. Right? Lim is. I mean, like I know Lim is Cherry, right? But it's like it doesn't matter because the thing is, like Lim is some sort of spirit wolf animal thing. Like I'm not even sure what the heck Lim is. Like a dream within a dream, Inception jokes, whatever. Here's the unique ability: when active player is determined, your delta becomes the difference between your opponent's priority and your priority. It is always positive. So that delta is called disparity. Blah. Right? And then a lot of our cards just make use of that symbol to represent the effects. And then limited Andy, choose one. You either gain a priority or lose a priority. So this is the biggest change to her kit. Lim can now modify her attacks with more precision. And even more than that, sometimes if she just wants to go really fast, she just has a prio +3 attack. Because whatever. You know what? Whatever. Wolf. 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 Okay, if Julian says Lim is a she, then Lim is a she. So Reverie. let's start off with the kit. Reverie is 1 to 3 range, plus 1 to 3 range power, plus 3. Priority -1 with a tiebreaker, which means clashes can't happen. So start a beat if your delta is 0, which means that if your priority and your opponent's priority are equal, they can't advance past you, which means that they can't dodge. It's a dodge counter. Start a beat. If the delta is greater than 3, suffer chip 3. This means that you lose 3 life if the delta is greater than 3, which means that you have to make the priorities as equal as possible. And then before optional, if your delta is less than or equal to 1, you can advance or retreat 1 space. Very powerful attack. Hurts a lot. But you know what hurts more than that? Chimeric. Chimeric just says start if the delta is greater than 2 plus 1 power. If the delta is greater than 4 plus 2 power, and if the delta is greater than 6 plus 3 power. Yes, this means that if your delta is 6, you get plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 power. That's plus 6 power all in all. Chimeric is disgusting, right? Especially with the new Andes here. So you have Chimeric plus Hope is plus 3 priority. So say you play Chimeric Drive, that's 7 priority. If your opponent bursts against Chimeric Drive, they get obliterated off the face of the earth and take 8 damage or something stupid like that. It's wild. It's pretty wild. Reverie Visions also works. It's a dodge counter straight up. But we'll talk about it later. So Maddening is around the same. So your power becomes delta. The opponent's power becomes delta. So one big thing about this is that these things are now start of beat effects with a specific trigger timing. Which means that Maddening sets your attack, sets your power to a specific value, which is the delta. But then, if the opponent has any before activating effects that give them more power, their power would go up, right? So that's just how it works now. So your power becomes a certain value and then can be modified afterwards. So start a beat. If your delta is 3 or greater, you get 2 armor. And if the delta is 5 or greater, you get 3 armor. Which means that Maddening will always trade up if the delta is high enough. So if the delta is 3 or more, you usually just trade up against your opponent. So you usually trade 3-1 against them when you do Maddening. Pretty good. Surreal is really good because the added range on it is just equal to delta. Which means that this could be a range plus 0 to 4 or 0 to 7 or whatever. It's really good. And then after optional, you can advance or retreat 0 to delta spaces. Which means that you can either create a huge distance or close a huge distance. Really good. Fathomless. Ooh, Fathomless is... Oh my gosh. So Fathomless punishes people for going fast against Limb. Because if your delta is 3 or greater, you get power and stun guard. Beautiful. If the delta is 5 or greater, you get even more power and stun immunity. And if the delta is 7, skip all of that. You become active player and you teleport to any space on the board. Spicy. Super spicy. It's very spicy. It's a very good attack. It's not the same dodge counter that it used to be. Dash counter, because remember, this used to work against dash, right? If you just played Fathomless against dash, the delta would almost always be 7, and you become active player and stun dash out. But now she has a dodge counter in the form of Reverie, so that's kind of how things have balanced out. Yes. So Kevin's correct. Does that mean that FG plus power doesn't do anything on Maddening beats? Yes. It technically means that it doesn't do anything on Maddening beats. Again, that's just something we have to clarify in the rules. Again, final templating, final word effects are not final. These are just showing you the general directions of how they go. And finally, Visions. It's a 1-3-3, pretty normal base. If the delta is 2 or greater, you advance 1 to 2, essentially turning it into a slow drive. And then if the delta is 4 or greater, it essentially turns into a crazy drive with more power, and then on damage you push or pull 1, 2. It's not the most amazing base, but it's pretty good when you consider all the other disparities that you get. So here you go, that's Lim. Let's do Clint Hyde. I mean, you're right, Twy. It's fine because it's Prio 3 because it's the middle of the ground in terms of priority. Let's talk about Clint Hyde. So Clint Hyde's gotten a big change. And it might seem small and insidious, but it's not. Okay, number 1. Setup. All stims are inactive. Boom. They're just inactive now. Gerard? Oh, Gerard. Ooh. Twy has some things to say about Gerard. Oh, anyway. So during an ante, you may activate a stim, perform the rush trigger on that stim. Boom. So Charisma Infusion looks a bit different right now. So for example, there's now just a stat over here on the right side of the card that gives you +1 power. So it's +1 power, and then the rush is +1 power. In addition to the +1 this active card already provides. So if you activate Charisma Infusion on that turn, you would have +2 power, right? So here's one of those things I was telling you about where this is so obviously a templating mistake. This should say limited ante and not just ante. Because currently, it means that Clint Hyde can activate all 3 stims in 1 turn. Which is cool, but heavily imbalanced. Because Clint Hyde suddenly just getting Charisma and Earlite on the same turn is wild. Super wild. And then note, one big difference as well is that end of beat perform the sustain trigger on each active stim. And the sustain triggers are all suffer chip 1, which means that Clint Hyde loses a life, right? What's the difference between this and the old unique ability? The old unique ability made Clint Hyde lose life at the end of the ante phase. This makes you lose life at the end of the beat, which means that if you can turn off your stim before you reach end of beat, you do not lose life. Yeah? Ah! Okay, let's go over the cards. So Gravity has changed a little bit. So now Gravity doesn't let Clint Hyde move, whether it's because of his own movement or the opponent's movement. And then hit, you can just push or pull the opponent 1 to 3 spaces. This thing is probably getting changed because it just doesn't help Clint Hyde with his current kit. But it's good enough for now, but we might change it later on. Shock is still Shock. It's still the fast attack that lets you advance or retreat 3 or more spaces. And then it ignores guard if you hit at range 1. Toxic is double the stats on active stims. Note that double the stats does not include the rush effects. So that means it would only double Charisma Infusion's passive power. It would only double the stun guard on Hylatine. And would only double the passive priority on Earlite. And then start 2 or more stims active, close 3. So this is the big difference between old and new Clint Hyde. Old Clint Hyde used to have a lot of effects that just said, like, do a thing for each active stim you have. Instead of that, it just cares about whether or not you have a certain number, and then it gives you the effect. So Toxic means that if you're at 1 stim, you're not advancing a space. Sorry, you're not closing a space. But if you have 2, you now close 3. So you don't need to have 3 active in order to close 3 anymore. So that's good for Toxic. Diffusion. Oh, Diffusion. So, yes, it sounds like everybody's really excited about Clint Hyde. Clint Hyde's really exciting. So Diffusion's fun. So it's still the same effect. Like you push 2, And then if they're at the edge of the arena, you chip them. Then on damage, you deactivate a stim. Again, that's way more powerful now that you can avoid the loss of life if you deactivate the stim on the same turn you activate it. And then end of beat, close as far as possible, essentially letting Clint Hyde corner the opponent easily. Very powerful attack, very fun, very good. I haven't gotten the best card in the kit. I'm waiting for the reactions. Here we go. Phase. Phase is range plus 0 to do power plus 1 priority minus 3 with no guard. But what does the effect say? When the opponent moves, minus 3 power and you avoid all attacks. Minus 3 power and you avoid all attacks. That is crazy text. This means that if your opponent moves, sure, you lose power, but they can't hit you. They can't hit you. All attacks. It's wild. It's pretty good. Yeah, so old phase used to be the attack wouldn't hit if the opponent didn't move, and then if they did move, you would hit. That was bad. This text is insane. It essentially gives Clint Hyde a secondary dodge effect at the cost of not dealing as much damage. So people are saying, but you're only dealing plus 1 power, right? So if the average basis attack is 3, then you're only dealing 1 damage. Yes, but you're also dodging the attack completely. Also note, if you just phase strike, if you just phase strike, you're golden, right? Because you would have the stun guard to compensate for the minus 3 priority, because strike has 5 stun guard, right? Then if your opponent doesn't move, then you deal 5 damage to them and they deal however much damage to you. But if they do move, then you deal 2 damage to them and they deal nothing to you. And this doesn't even talk about the fact that on the turn you phase strike, you can also charisma infusion to give yourself plus 2 power. So if they don't move, phase strike would deal 6 damage. No, not 6. It would be 7 damage. And then if your opponent does move, they take 4. It's wild. Phase is now probably the best card in this kit. And the big thing about it is that the only real counterplay to phase is if you like clash it, but phase strike is priority 0, so good luck clashing it. Okay, and last one is we have Frenzy. So Frenzy start advanced 1, and then if you have 2 or more stims active, it becomes a power 4 base, and then after deactivate any number of stims. So some crazy stuff you can do is if you have 1 stim active, you can do Toxic Frenzy on Toxic Frenzy, activate the stim on the same turn, and then deactivate all your stims and then not lose any life. Pretty good, pretty fun, pretty G. Of course, if you just look at Toxic Frenzy and say you have Light up right now, if you do Toxic Frenzy, activate Charisma Infusion all on the same turn, your attack would be... So for starters, it would be priority 7. So good luck dodging that. Start a beat, you would get to close 3 and advance 1. So that basically makes it a big ranged attack. And then your power would be 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1. So that would be 7 power. So it'd be a 1-7-7, start of beat at close 4, and then after activating, get rid of all of your stims. There you go. That's Clint Hyde. You have reached peak Clint Hyde. Good character. I had the pleasure of playing a lot of Clint Hyde a few days ago. He's super fun, especially the interactions with FaZe. FaZe is probably my new favorite Clint Hyde card. It used to be Shock. Here's the big thing. Clint Hyde mains, I didn't play Shock a single time in the entire game I played Clint Hyde. Not a single time. So if Shock is your quote-unquote worst card, you're in a good spot. Alright, let's look at the Mercenary King himself, Gerard. Ooh, alright, let's go. Gerard. So Gerard's around the same. You start with 3 gold out of your 10 gold, and then none of your mercenaries are active. You may then, as an ante, spend gold equal to a mercenary's gold cost to activate it. Big deal. End of beat, you just regain gold passively. So you just keep getting gold every turn, but only 1. So this kind of helps Gerard's economy a bit. Oh, but places will go. So a lot of his cards have been streamlined. So initiation is just before optional advance 1, and then you hit, gain gold, easy. Hooked is still hooked, so you retreat as far as possible, and then on damage you pull 1 per damage dealt as far as possible. Villainous is you push, and then end of it you advance, and then if they're in the corner, you regain gold. Gilded, Gilded's fun. So if you have more gold than active mercenaries, armor 2, otherwise +4 guard. Simple. Before optional pull 1. Gilded, this is hit confirm style, and also gives you a lot of defense. Avaricious is the faster version of that. It kind of is a side grade to initiation. It gives you a start of beat movement, and it gives you either power or priority, your choice. But hit, you still regain gold. All the gold. First turn, next level, infinity, mind-boggling plays. Okay, and then we have Larceny. So Larceny now hits even if you don't switch sides. This is good. It just gets more powerful if you do switch sides. So Larceny allows you to pull advance 1 and then you gain power. So it becomes a 4 power base if you switch sides, and it's a 1 power base otherwise. But regardless, you gain gold and you damage people. So the thing Kevin's talking about is that I played, I believe it was Gilded Larceny on turn 1. And it allows, so basically the thing about it is that Gerard starts with 3 gold. And if you just spend enough gold on mercenaries, you can therefore change your amount of gold. So if you spend 3 gold, you, for example, and get, I don't know, an archer or something, or spend 2 gold even. So you buy a bookie, right? So if you have more gold than mercenaries, right? But I don't have more gold than mercenaries. If I spent 2 gold to buy a bookie, I would have 1 mercenary and 1 gold. Therefore, my gold values would be my gold would be equal to my mercenaries. Therefore, it doesn't fulfill that first condition. So I would get guard 4. So my gilded Larceny became 7 guard instead of just having armor to 3 guard. So this is good if I'm expecting an attack to deal more than 6 damage to me. And yeah, so that's some cool stuff that you can do with Gerard that he used to be able to do anyway, but like it's just some cool stuff with Gerard. Gerard's a fun character. Yep, Gilded Larceny by Bookie. So what do mercenaries do? So they'll look very similar to the familiars from Lissandra. So the Bookie does the same thing. She gains you gold if you hit the opponent. So the suite of chippers. So the Brawler, the Archer, and the Bombardier all make the opponent chip 1 at specific ranges. Then you have the trio of things you pay for repeatedly. So the Mage, you buy her for 2, but she does nothing. You have to then pay her 3 to give yourself +1 power and +1 priority. The same goes for the Gunslinger, but the Gunslinger can push or pull the opponent 1 space. And then the Heavy Knight does the same thing, but you can prevent opponents from advancing past you. So you dodge counter if you pay 3 gold. Also, the big thing about these are not limited antis. So you can indeed, if you had enough gold, give yourself +3 power, +3 priority. You could indeed push the opponent 3 or pull the opponent 3. And you could do this 3 times, but I don't know why you would. There's no point in doing so. And of course, the last one is Disposable Dave, who just has armor 5 on him. And then, yeah. I love the flavor text on these things, by the way. Mr. Gerard, are you sure that's a good idea? Wilhelm scream. Yeah. Dave. Poor Dave. But there you go. That's Gerard and all of Gerard's cards. He's a very simple character despite being an advanced tier. He just has a lot of components and a lot of resource management. So, chat, who do we do next? So chat, who do we do next? Oh, Voco. That's a good one to do. All right, let's do Voco. So would all of you be surprised if I said that Voco was no longer the weakest character in the entire cast? It's probably one of the better characters, actually. We can do a Jenna. Arya. Hey, Ma, it's fine. It's fine if you can't watch too much. The VOD will be up on our YouTube channel, so it's fine. This is why I usually stream on YouTube, so that it converts straight. All right. So, Voco. Simple ability. All zombies are in your supply. You are playing solo. That's it. So what's playing solo? This is playing solo. So, playing solo. Before optional, activate the chorus. We'll talk about that later on. And then after, place a zombie in each space in your attack's range that doesn't contain a zombie. So this is the old Voco UA. You could just drop zombies down into every space in your range. Well, it's not the old Voco UA, but you know what I mean. So basically, Voco can now place down zombies a lot faster because of this playing solo card. So when you activate the chorus, before activating, you flip the card to the chorus. So before, your range becomes X, where X is a space containing a zombie. So yes, this means that zombies are now range. And then when you hit the opponent, you gain +1 power, and then all your zombies go back to your hand. And then end, activate playing solo. And you flip back. Alright, so note that the pattern is that before activating, you activate the chorus, then you get your zombies, then you withdraw your zombies, then end the beat, you activate playing solo. Note that the after effect on playing solo is an after effect, right? So if you do chorus, you cannot place zombies with solo. So that's how new Voco works. Oh no. Don't eat too much curry, everyone. That's rough. I don't do well with spicy food myself. So right, so Abyssal just lets you place a zombie in your space and then a zombie in any space behind you. Hell Raising allows you to retreat 1, armor 2 if you are on a zombie, and then place a zombie in any space. So notice how Voco lost a lot of his place a lot of zombies effects, because now it's all on playing solo. So there you go. Monster, when you are hit, you can adjacent to you and the opponent for +1. So that just means that you can generate armor by getting rid of zombies, and then also allows you to power slide on your zombies. Metal allows you to... Metal is one of the only remaining fill the board with lots of zombies, because you can still metal dodge and create a lot of zombies. So Thunderous allows you to place 1 zombie, advance 2, blah, blah, blah. And Shred. Shred is the most interesting card in his kit because of the change. So Shred now is just NA range. Power 3, prio 4. The power becomes 5 if you have 5 or more zombies. And then end beat, place 3 zombies in 3 different spaces. So how does this attack hit? Your attack only hits if you chorus. So to make Shred hit, you have to chorus. Oh. And yes, place 3 zombies. So yes, what you can do is the board could be filled with zombies. You shred chorus and then set it up so that you still have 4 or something zombies afterwards. So something along the lines of like Hell-Raising Shred or I don't know, like Abyssal Shred. All of these are good. What's Voco's lore? Okay, so for the people who didn't know, the world of Indians actually began as a tabletop RPG setting that Brad, the creator of BattleCON, used to play with his friends. And a large majority of... Oh. Sorry if I accidentally deleted a message on the chat. That's my mistake. No, but here's the big thing, right? Voco. Sorry, the world was an RPG setting. They played RPG campaigns. So a large majority of the cast of characters are actually NPCs from that game or player characters from that game. The player characters include characters like the gung-ho martial artist guy, Hikaru. Or the edgy dark elf with the teleportation powers, Kadath. Or, of course, the crazy necromancer who wears Kamina shades, Voco. Lore-wise, in the actual world of Indians, Voco is a necromancer who uses a guitar named Brains to control zombies. And that's why all of the zombies say the word brains when they're moving around. Not because they want to eat brains, but that's because that's the name of the magical guitar that brings them to life. And in the setting, I believe he's a feudal lord in Gesselheim. That's why it says evil overlord question mark? So there you go, that's Voco. Voco has received a big change. He's not as bad as he used to be. Voco, one of the best characters in the game. You won't believe it, but it's true. Apologies for the coughing. All right. We can do more characters, everyone. The stream will go on until 10:30. So we have free liberty to keep watching. Also note that this is also a question and answer stream. So if there are any questions you have about the upcoming set, more characters, more lore, literally ask me anything, friends. I will answer your questions. Caitlin. All right, Caitlin. I'll try to get through as many characters as I can. Hopefully my voice doesn't die before we end the stream. Caitlin. So what's the big difference with Caitlin, everyone? So all wormholes are in your supply. So wormholes, the opponent has -1 range per wormhole between the opponent and Caitlin. Yes, this means that it doesn't technically increase the range on the board anymore. It simply reduces your opponent's range, which is effectively the same thing. So, whenever the opponent enters a wormhole space, withdraw the wormhole and armor 1. Yes, this also means that Caitlin no longer locks you out of your movement if you step on a wormhole space. After optional, place a wormhole in an unoccupied space within your attack's range. That's pretty much it. That's Caitlyn. So that's the new UA. The biggest change here is that line that says that whenever the opponent enters a wormhole space. This means that Caitlyn no longer hard limits opponents from movement, which means that Caitlyn is no longer a character hard countered by movement, but she no longer hard counters opponents without movement. So she's kind of normalized. Kevin, that is not how you pronounce that name. So how do you pronounce? I kid you not, it's Keanu. It's Keanu, or yeah, Keanu. That's how you pronounce his name. His nickname is Kenny, but his real name, you pronounce it like Keanu. At least that's what I remember. It's wild. No, you mean Magical Hacker Marmalade looks like Caitlyn. Alright, so Telepresent. Range plus 1 to 3, power -1. So before, withdraw a wormhole, and then you can check your range from that wormhole instead of your attack. Yeah? And then plus 1 power per wormhole withdrawn. So it essentially allows you to do that thing where you calculate your range from a different space. Paradox. When an opponent would advance, they retreat instead. Whenever they would retreat, they advance instead. Way clearer than the old one. And then place a wormhole in your space, then retreat 1. Simple. Mobius. Withdraw a wormhole adjacent to the opponent for plus 1 power and push or pull 2 spaces. So this is the new Caitlyn, right? A lot of her effects care about removing her wormholes to do things, as opposed to just, let me set up a turret nest of 7 wormholes that you can't get through. I know she could only have 3 before, it's fine. Illimitable. Before you were hit, plus 2 power and advance or retreat 1 to 2. So this is a slow card that gets better if you get hit. And then end of beat, you choose 1. You either advance 1 and gain plus 2 priority next turn, or retreat 1 and gain plus 2 power next turn. So this is a positioning tool that Caitlyn desperately needs. So very good. Very good to pair with dodge, by the way, because prio 1 dodge and the ability to give yourself a buff and extra repositioning. Mwah, chef kiss. Axiomatic. So this attack's range becomes all spaces not included in its printed range. That's dumb. But basically, Axiomatic says that you only hit the spaces that you don't hit. No, it says so you can only withdraw 1. Radames asks, any plans on redoing Battle Guide YouTube videos? Oh, you know for sure I am. So the plan is actually... Okay, so here's the long and short of it. I actually have 2 Battle Guides videos that are fully complete but unreleased. Simply because all of that has been made quote-unquote irrelevant or outdated because of this new templating change. So I'm probably going to have to re-edit those videos once all the templating changes for all the characters are done, right? So there. I'm probably going to have to do Wanderers first. But even before Wanderers, I probably have to do Trials too. So there's a lot of stuff that I have to catch up on. So yeah, Axiomatic is an attack that hits all the spaces it doesn't actually hit. Weird. And Transposition is a range 0 attack. With 2 power and 4 priority, this attack's damage does not stun the opponent. And push or pull 1 to 3 plus 1 power if a wormhole was withdrawn by this movement. So are people seeing what I'm throwing down here? How does Caitlyn withdraw her wormholes using Transposition? The ding! Remember, whenever an opponent enters a wormhole space, withdraw it. Yes. Pushing people onto wormholes allows you to withdraw them. which means that telepresent can get more powerful and transposition can get more powerful. Huh? Huh? Does that blow your mind, everyone? And note that telepresent transposition is insane. Because every time you withdraw a wormhole, it would deal like +3 damage. Wild. So there you go. See, I was building up to this, right? Like I wasn't showing you the key strats until it happened. Because characters like this, the fun of them is figuring out those strats and going like, oh. It's kind of like that thing where I did when I played a game of Gaspar and then I did double gunslinger. Oh, that was so fun. All right, who are we looking at next? Do not be afraid to go back to BattleCON online. Do not be afraid. BattleCON is fun. You can get a training partner. You can find a training opponent. It's all good. Any love for Byron? Okay, wait. So I believe somebody voted for Orianna. So again, I'll ask again. Who do you want me to do next? I will give all of you some time to get your votes in, and I will go get some more water because my water just ran out. Be right back. This time I'm not going to forget to mute the microphone. I'm back, everyone. And we're back to the stream. So let's see who you all voted for. So somebody voted for Byron. Somebody voted for Eric. Byron. All right. All right. So here in this order we would do Byron. So let's do Byron, Eric, and Octavia. So for people who don't know, if you've watched my battle guide on Byron, I make it very clear in that battle guide that I am not a very good Byron player, and I dislike Byron heavily. Because Byron... So my playstyle in BattleCON involves having a lot of easy, consistent attacks, right? So I can, like, play... Essentially, I would like to play characters like Lissandra. I'd like playing characters like Rifflum, right? But Byron is such an inconsistent character, mostly because a lot of his effects only work if you hit at a specific range, and that just sucks. And then he gets speed gated so hard because if the opponent's average speed is just 6, like half of Byron's kit turns off. Like, okay, so it's like and then like almost every Byron game is decided on whether or not Byron plays Solus at the right time. Like, I just don't like the general playstyle. Not to say that Byron's a bad character, right? I just don't like the character personally. And that's fine. It's okay to not particularly enjoy characters. Can anybody hear me? Alright, let's look at Byron. I need to just make sure that people can hear me, because I might be talking to an empty mic. Okay, yeah, it seems like people can hear me. That's good. Alright, let's bring out this boy. So the UA doesn't actually change that much, except for one big thing, is that Byron's mask count is dependent on how much life he starts the game with. So right now it's 5, and that's the same. It's around the same. It's 5, because it's 20 divided by 4, so that's 5. But for multiplayer modes where Byron has like 30, 40, 60, whatever life, he would get more masks as a result. So when you take damage, deplete the mask, your life becomes 3 times the number of masks you hold to a minimum 1. So it's just the start of each effect that just changes his life total to that, no matter what, every turn. So Byron's still around the same. Functions around the same. Yeah. So let's look at the cards. So here's a big one, right? I'm pretty sure this is a misprint because it doesn't have a range requirement. All the other cards do. This one doesn't. And I think this is a typo because this for sure should have a range requirement because this effect is crazy. But there you go. So I like new Byron way more than old Byron because his effects aren't niche anymore. So his attacks are still like specific ranges only, but the effects that he gets from them are just so much better. So for example, old Heartless used to ignore soak and then give you power equal to the amount of soak that you ignored or something like that. Now it just gives you straight up ignore armor and power +2, which means Heartless will always have +2 power if you hit it at range 3. And then if you damage the opponent, you just armor 4. This is way better than whatever old Heartless did. We can even compare them now. Let me bring out old Heartless and so that we can rag on it together. Where's Byron? BY. See, look at this old version of Heartless, right? Hit, range 3, ignore soak. The opponent loses 1 life. On damage, blah, blah, blah. Like, a bunch of text. And also, the worst stat line ever. Priority -1. And then the new version is this, right? Where it has prio +1 instead. It's just so much better. Like, infinitely better on, like, almost every freaking respect. The opponent, ignore soak, blah, blah, blah. All of this crazy stuff. No. Let's just make it simple. Let's make it easier. And let's give it +2 priority. Because holy heck, it needed it. So, Sulking, that's a really cool comment that you gave, because that is literally the design philosophy. That is the design philosophy of BattleCON. It means that rather than a bunch of just kind of good characters, you have a cast where every character will be somebody's favorite and conversely somebody's least favorite. That is ideal. If you've watched this presentation by Richard Garfield on the creation of magic cards, you have to create a card for someone. Never make something for everyone, because that having a response that's just like, oh, okay, is the worst thing. You'd rather have a response that's like, I hate this or I love this. And that's how BattleCon characters are made. None of them are just middle of the road. They're all crazy wacky in their own way. Yep. It's just so much better. I'm pretty sure Faceless should still have the range restriction of hitting at range 2. See, there's just so much complication, when in reality, it's just this. But there you go. So, let's move on to Soulless. Oh, Soulless became insane, by the way. So, Soulless now no longer has stun immunity, but still has prio -4. Why, you ask? Because it just says you avoid all attacks by default. So you just, yeah, you can just never get hit on a Soulless turn now. Wipes brows. Ooh. Ooh. Yes. Welcome to the Soulless Parade. So reveal at range 1, the opponent loses 2 life and you gain +2 power. So yes, Soulless is essentially power +5 attack. But end of beat, now you must deplete a mask, and if you cannot, you die. If you cannot deplete a mask after you Soulless, you die. That's it. Just wholesale. It's wild, it's crazy, it's wacky. Welcome to Soulless. Deathless. You cannot take more than 1 damage at a time. Optional, hit range 4, push or pull the opponent 1 to 3. Simple effect, simple card. Way more simple than old Byron was. Start, optional. Teleport to any space behind the opponent, hit range 5. Armor 3, chip 2. Simple card, simple fun. And Smoke. Smoke is the same. Except now it says hit, optional, advance or retreat 1, as opposed to move the opponent 1. It's practically the same thing. But yeah, there you go. There's Byron. Byron received a lot of love. That Soulless change is massive, by the way. Here's what old Soulless looked like. It's just a lot of complicated text for nearly the same effect. Look at that. And look at that. Look at that. And look at that. So yes, it does mean that you can't Soulless. It does mean that you can no longer Soulless if you only have 0 masks left, if you have no more masks. But it does mean that cards with Ignore Soak, or opponents with high amounts of power, opponents with high amounts of power can no longer break through your Soulless and kill you. Because you just avoid attacks wholesale. There you go, that's Byron. And then let's talk about the 2 banned characters. Yeah, people voted for Eric, so let's vote for let's look at that nasty boy. Where are you, nasty boy? Alright, so Eric. Eric still has the same ability. No difference. It's the cards that are different. Manipulative. Again, around the same. Around the same as old manipulative. Returning has changed, so now returning just doesn't wholesale stun the opponent because that's dumb, right? So start if the opponent's base has the same name as yours. Returning just becomes a range plus 0 to 6 attack, right? It's way more powerful that way. Oh, rather, way more balanced that way. And then it has a different effect now. During recycle, pick up the base that was paired with this attack. This is crazy. This is actually insane. For people who don't understand why this is insane, returning dodge, and then you can still dodge next turn. Huh? Huh? Wins prioritized? That's not even what I'm caring about. You can returning dodge, then dodge again next turn. And it also wins prioritize. So that means you can't even clash your returning dodge. Soul King. If you have missing components, go to level99games.com/contact us. Send a request for replacement parts and we will send it to you for free. There's a triangle next to the priority stat. That means tiebreaker. This means that if you have the same priority, you don't clash and instead you win the priority tie. That triangle just means that you win priority ties. Phantom. Woo. So Phantom is basically the same. Still the same. It just ignores armor and you regain an influence. It's great. Perceptional. Perceptional is still the same. It does the thing. Still the same. So, but note that the big deal here is that you've lost a lot of power. So Perceptional has minus power. Returning has plus 0 power instead of like stunning the opponent. Manipulative no longer just has base power. Mirrored no longer has base power as well. And then, so Mirrored now avoids attacks. Same thing. End of beat. Next beat, as a limited ante, you may teleport to the nearest space behind the opponent. Mirrored is no longer you set the marker onto the board and can teleport to the marker. You now have to always teleport to the opponent. So that's a big nerf in terms of like adaptability. And Hex. Hex is still the same thing. Instead, though, Hex is now listed as range 1 to 6. So that means that Hex will just always hit full board. I mean, that's basically what old Hex used to be, but yeah. So overall, Eric's changes aren't huge. He lost a lot of power on his cards, and he lost some of his crazy tech. He did gain this crazy returning tech, but that might not make it through because, yeah, it's been testing really annoying. All right, there you go. There's Eric. Let's go to Octavia. Octavia is probably the bigger change. Devastation. Octavia 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. There you go. So let's name Octavia. So as an ante, choose a number as your target lock. This replaces any previous target lock you had set and lasts throughout this beat. If you have a target lock set, you cannot use this ante after the opponent passes. So this basically means that Orianna can't infinitely extend the ante phase. It just means that you target lock the opponent, they pass, you can't target lock anymore. It makes sense. So locked on. While the opponent's priority matches your target lock, you are locked on. Start a beat. If you are locked on, you become the active player and the opponent cannot avoid attacks. So it's not just like your opponent gets prio -10. You literally just become active player and then the opponent cannot avoid attacks. This means, yes, they cannot dodge. So even if they move over you with a dodge, you can still hit them. So that's the big deal. That's the big deal. Yo, Octavia. All right, anti-personnel, kid. So for this character, I do think it would be useful if we looked at the previous kit and compared it to the new kit. Because Eric was very much just the same character. Octavia's very different now. So, old anti-personnel is when you are hit, you become stunned. So that just means you're vulnerable, right? And the beat move directly to the enemy space within range of this attack. So it's no longer that. It's a bit more flexible. It means that you can move more in melee range, but not at far range. So that's the big difference. Cybernetic. So on hit, the opponent has move the opponent up to 2 spaces. Push or pull 1 to 2. So around the same. Snapback. Locked on, the opponent cannot advance or retreat. After retreat 1 to 2. If an opponent is affected by your target lock, they cannot move 1 to 2. Wait a minute. Am I reading the right version of Octavia? Because this seems like just the same character. Am I? +1 power and ignore guard. This attack has +1 power and they are stunned. This is just the same character. What am I thinking about? This is just a retemplated version of the same character. Yeah, but you just ignore guard, which is the same thing as just stunning people. Or was it because of the UA? Was the UA the difference? Wait a gosh darn second. This is just a retemplated version of old Octavia. Well, I've been caught with my pants down. This is weird. Oh, let me get this. Okay, I get it now. I need to check something here. Is this? Give me Joel. This might prove something to me. All right, I get it now. So that wasn't very useful because this isn't actually, that card I was comparing her to wasn't actually old Octavia. That was just me comparing her to new Octavia, but with old templating. Because this isn't printed Joel. This is Joel old version. So there's a version between this current update and the version that was printed. And that was this version where dual wield looked like this. So therefore, that means this is the new Octavia already. So I was comparing the cards for no reason because it should have been old Octavia. This is already new Octavia, but just retemplated properly. Unfortunately, I do not have a copy of old Octavia right now to compare it to. But the overall difference here is that new Octavia has way less stun guard on her cards. She's way less safe, and she's more reliant on getting her target lock correct. That's pretty much it. It's not just, oh, I can just guess you to be slower or not. Like, she actually has to care more about it. That's it. There you go. And that's why I was confused. My pants were not caught down. I just forgot that this is a different version than what is printed. That's completely fine. Are there any other characters that you want us to go over? Clint Hyde is amazing. I played some Clint Hyde yesterday. It was fun. Really good. All right, Brian, take care. Have fun. The stream's winding down anyway. So I think I'm gonna take this to either take these last few minutes of the stream to either do another character or answer some questions. So whichever one the chat would be more accustomed to or would feel is more useful, do just tell me, and then we'll get on that. So chat, do you want to do another character? My favorite character? We already did him. It's Joel. Second favorite character? Clint Hyde. So we already did both. In this set, those are the two characters I was most excited for. If we're doing a character that I'm excited for but hasn't been done yet. Actually, no, we already did all of the characters I was super excited for. Because that would be, that would just be Joel and Voco and Clint Hyde. Gerard, too. So actually, there's nobody left that I'm actually super excited for. Everybody else is okay. But I already did my favorites. Like, we did all of my favorites already. Clive. Oh, okay, we can do Clive, everyone. Clive is insane and does a different thing now. So Clive is generally the same. He still does the same thing, is that he activates his module, and then he trashes all of his modules when he gets stunned. So Megaton is around the same. Leaping is now different. So Leaping no longer misses if you move over the opponent, because now it just can't miss. So Leaping is just infinitely better. But now the power bonus only happens if you move the full 3 spaces. So upgradable. So here's the big change. So in BattleCON, Devastation, and Wanderers, and this updated templating thing, scaling effects are kind of being tapped down. Rather, so upgradable used to be this weird thing where you would gain power and lose priority for each active module. Upgradable doesn't care about that anymore. It just says, do you have 3 modules activated? All right, here are your new stats. That's it. It no longer does that silly thing where it makes you do like algebra or whatever in the middle of the beat to figure out what your actual stats are. It just says, you have 3, here's your stats. Eight modules. He has 9. I'm pretty sure he has 9. Oh, no. Yeah, now he only has 8. Yes. Because we got rid of one. Because that was what broke him. We'll talk about that sometime after this. So Rocket is around the same. Burnout is the different one, though. So when you are stunned for each active module, you may spend 1 force instead of thrashing that module. Yes, he now has a way to prevent himself from losing his modules. But it costs force. So Clive is now one of the weird characters that interacts with force outside of the anti-phase. And Wrench is much like upgradable now, wherein Wrench just tells you, hey, you have these modules active? Yeah, here, just get power. So let's look at the modules. The modules are mostly the same. So retreat, regain 1 life, pull, advance, you get guard, and you get power. That's it. So notice what's missing? Core shielding. Core shielding was the module that let Clive ignore opponents on hit and on damage effects. That was broken. That was the reason why Clive was basically top tier all the time. Was because if your character was, for example, Byron would do nothing against Clive. Because Clive would just negate every single one of Byron's effects. And then Byron would auto-lose for having blank cards. Good job, Byron. Yes, it's a huge nerf, but he deserved it. Because core shielding was broken. But there you go, there's Clive. So I believe we should be winding down on the stream. If you have any more comments, questions, or suggestions, please give them now. I'll spend like maybe 5 to 10 minutes just answering questions as opposed to just going through characters. No, now I have to look for where Voco is. Voco! So here are some of the characters that we went through. Hey Brian, welcome back. We knew you couldn't quit us. Okay. Any rule changes for multiplayer mode? A lot. Multiplayer mode was essentially overhauled completely. So some of the bigger changes are, for example, these 3 people are fighting against Almighty Lissandra. Lissandra has to advance 2. Here's what happens. 1, 2. Does that mean... Yes, it means 1, 2. 1, 2. So that's a big difference for 1. There's also a bunch of other changes, like, for example, the Almighty and EX fighters are now called Super and Ultra fighters, and Super and Ultra fighters just, like, have a lot of stuff on them. So, for example, I think, like, Ultra fighters get something like, oh, by the way, all of your attacks just have +3 power, +2 priority, and +4 guard. Indians succeed when? The answer to that is, I don't know. Exceed is meant to be like this. It's meant to be the game wherein all the IPs in it are external IPs, but then we did 7th Cross, so I'm no longer clear about it. How has it felt going from the guru of the existing BattleCON to the sort of explorer of the new realms of BattleCON Unleashed? It has been really weird, because there's a big misconception about me where people think that I am actually one of the best BattleCON players ever. That is not true at all. I've had many people fight against me in BattleCON online and go like, huh, I beat Marco, he wasn't that good. I'm very disappointed. And I'm like, okay, I'm not the best BattleCON player in the world. I am decently good, but I don't think I could ever compete in a tournament against, say, Charles, Engstrom, Elephant, all of these like top tier players. They would wipe the floor with me. Now here's the big deal, right? I'm not saying that I can't beat them. I'm just saying that I can't consistently beat them. So I would be able to compete, but I wouldn't be winning the tournaments. It's been very fun though. So I've been a playtester for Level 99 games for a long time, even while I was still making battle guide stuff. So the big thing about it is that I've actually been an explorer of new realms for a long time. And it's always fun to see all this new content, and it's why I love playtesting so much, because I get to see all these new characters and all this new stuff. I mean, like, there's some characters, like, here. There's some characters in this public module, like Himmel, that doesn't have art yet. I know what Himmel's art looked like, and he is now my favorite character in BattleCON. Like, he's up there now, along with Joel and Clive. Like, if I have to pick a team of 3, it would probably be Joel, Clive, Himmel. Like, based on, like, the characters that I just enjoy. But you don't know what Himmel looks like. And that's the big thing. Thanks. So Joe says, thanks, Marco. Excited about the updated characters and looking forward to more battle guides. Yes, thank you so much. I'm very excited for the new characters and new battle guides as well. Dude, Marco is secretly the lore guru of Indians. So the real answer to that, the lore guru is actually Julian, because Julian has the ability to retcon any piece of lore that he wants. So technically, Julian knows more about the lore than me. But yes, I know a lot of stupid, meaningless trivia about the characters in BattleCON. For example, let's see. Did you know that Did you know that in Indians there is a thing called wild magic? which is a small magical bonus that human characters get when they're born. And it's unique to them as a human being. Shucks. So here are some characters with wild magic that I can tell you about. So, Eligor's wild magic. So the lore of Indians is weird because humans are some of the most magical beings on the planet. So it's not elves, it's not dwarves or whatever, it's humans. So humans are the most magical race. So by default, in a sense, humans have like overflowing magic inside of them that manifests itself as a minor superpower, right? So Eligor's wild magic is that he has plus 10 experience bonus. This means that if it takes the average person 10 hours to do a task, it takes Eligor 9 hours to do the same thing. So, for example, this thing takes 100 minutes in order to learn. Eligor would only take 90 minutes. So that's Eligor's thing. He has a plus 10 experience bonus. He learns faster than the average person. Okay, wait, let's just finish some wild magic stuff. Runika's wild magic is that she can win any game of skill, but so long as the game is like a board game or something like that. Which, yes, it means that Runika is the de facto best BattleCON player in all of Indians because she always wins BattleCON. And yes, this also means that BattleCON is a legit in-universe game in Indians, and it does exist. But the characters in the BattleCON game in Indians are not the characters that are the characters in Indians. Does that make any sense? Pandroso's wild magic is that he can eat spicy things and it doesn't affect him. Oh, but there's also another one. He has another wild magic where you always think he's your friend. So Pandroso's wild magic is that when you meet him for the first time, it always doesn't feel like it's the first time because it'll feel like you've met him somewhere before. So Pandros always comes across as friendly to people because they all think that they've met Pandros before. Rifflum. So Rifflum's wild magic is pretty useful, but not really interesting. Is that Rifflum can identify metals based solely on their smell. So that's his wild magic. He can smell metal and he can identify exactly what that metal is, which is pretty useful for an alchemist. So let's answer some more questions. Shrek Exceed. Unfortunately, according to Brad, Shrek Exceed will never happen. Just have fun. I hope more people playing BattleCon, even I have to lose every single game just to keep their interest. Playing BattleCon's fun, whether win or whether lose, especially if the games are exciting. In lore, how many people are dead now? Huh. I can't answer that question. Not because there's some hidden info or whatever, but because I don't know how many are actually dead. I know some people lose their arms. I don't think anyone's dead as of yet. Cherry died and became Lim. Rexen died, but that was just before the games even happened, he was dead. So that's different. I don't think anyone's dead. At least not that I know. I know some characters have moved on and no longer fight, right? For example, Seth from War no longer fights and is no longer, like, you know, going around punching people. He's now the station master at the train station in Sanghalim. Hepzibah? I don't know if Hepzibah's dead. I also don't know if Ross? Yeah, but Ross doesn't count. He died before the events of the game even started, right? Aaron Ross. So for people who don't know who Aaron Ross is the soul Aaron Ross was killed and then his soul was used to create Melandrax. So Melandrax and Aaron Ross are quote-unquote the same person. But Melandrax does not have any of the memories of Aaron Ross. and none of his humanity, and none of his, like, common sense. But he has the genius of Aaron Ross. So Aaron Ross is... Okay, so the lore behind Aaron Ross is that he is a scientist from Willat. For people who don't know, Willat is this cyberpunk city of elves. Why is the Willat city of elves the most cyberpunk city? Because elves live longer, and therefore their intelligent people live the longest. So Willat is actually managed by a group of elite scientists called Magisters. They essentially form the government. Magisters are usually people of scientific note. So basically, if you're Einstein smart, you become a Magister. Or rather, the government says that you should become a Magister. What happens if you choose to decline? Aaron Ross was a brilliant biomancer who then was so brilliant, he was asked to become a Magister. But he didn't want to become a Magister because if you become a Magister, all of your research becomes property of the Willati government. So he was like, nah, I don't want to become a Magister. The Willati government's like, yeah, that's totally fine. That's cool. And then the next day, a horde of soldiers and robots raided Aaron Ross's lab and killed him. That wasn't the government. Totally promised. Nope, no, it wasn't the government at all. Nope. But yeah, that's his lore. That's his story. They killed him, and then his soul was used to create Melandrax. And yes, Aaron Ross was indeed the creator of the August strain and the creator of Carolyn Ross. Hence why her last name is Ross. Because, yeah, he made them. August is not a virus, by the way. August is a homunculus, much like Carolyn. August is Carolyn's older sister. The big difference between the two of them is that August has no limiter on her body and Carolyn does. So notice how all of Carolyn's transformations have her retaining some humanoid parts. August doesn't have that. August can transform into whatever form she wishes, but that also means that she goes insane and loses control over her body. And that's why the finisher, the August strain, is essentially Carolyn removing the limiter on her body so that she can transform, and that's why she has two styles when she does her finisher. Okay. Eustace. Eustace is a cool boy. Eustace, again, has already been dead before the series started, so I don't think he counts. Soul King. This is not a hard-hitting question because we all know. We all know how it actually worked. Is that this is the last set of BattleCON ever. We are probably not making new sets. We might be releasing new characters as single promos, much like we did with Murderum. But there will be no more new boxes. How was Kadra involved in the creation of... How was Kadra involved in August's creation? She wasn't, because Kadra's not related to Aaron Ross whatsoever. You might be referring to the Dryad Lixis Rankanda, who is Aaron Ross's assistant. And how is she involved? She's the assistant. That's how she's involved. Kadra, I don't think Kadra's related to Aaron Ross in a way. No. Kadra just really hates Willat because they killed the forest. And now she's like the dark specter of the forest come back to life to haunt Willati people for polluting the earth. Right? So are there any more questions? I mean, like, this could just turn into the Marco lore half hour if you want. I'm not opposed to answering those questions. Relationship between Voco and Trias. Not much. They are both musically related characters. That's pretty much it. I don't think they interact with each other, mostly because Voco is in Gesselheim and Trias is in Argent, and those are two different countries. So they barely interact. Not every character interacts with every other character. Indians is the coolest place. Man, wouldn't it be great if there was like an Indians tabletop RPG where you could create your own characters and like just like exist in the world of Indians with your OCs? Okay, I'll do like 10 more minutes of lore stuff. I don't know if she's fought Ariel. Turning over to the dark side is not an inevitability. It's about giving up. It's about giving up to the power. It's kind of like Venom, I guess. So what will level 99 team be doing after the Unleashed release? What will level 99 games be doing after the Unleashed release? Probably finish up that latest season of Exceed that we have not announced yet. And also probably finish up 7th Cross and a bunch of other games. We have more games in the pipeline for all of you, so just you wait. Kevin Lambert asks, OMG Marco, don't tease me. About the Indians RPG? I don't know. Is it a tease if we're not sure if it'll happen or not? Because I want it to happen. Hey, vote for Orianna. All right, so let's end this stream with Orianna. Here are the big changes to Orianna. Oh, that bag fell. It's going to spawn here. There you go. Big change to Orianna. Changes are big, by the way. Super big. First of all, place 6 magic in your supply, then 4 in depletion. So you start with 6 mana. Limited ante. Spend any amount of magic and or force. Your chaos is the amount spent. You can use force to pay for magic costs. That's a big difference. Is there a fight that you've ever had over changes made to a Devastation character that you've lost? As in, you felt the changes were too much, not enough? So Devastation. So here's the thing. I don't feel that way right now because all of these characters are super subject to change, and any amount of playtesting can just easily sway characters. But I do feel that way for some other games, for sure. But for Devastation specifically, no, not really. No. I mean, of course, I regret Arik coming out that way, but yeah. If it's any indication, you saw the Arik that I just showed you earlier. It was hardly different from the old Arik. So, it's pretty good. So, Calamity, I won't read through the text, but it gives you guard, it makes you chip, it regains you stuff, and it ignores guard if you have enough. Unstable is way more easily templated. So for every 2 chaos, the opponent must choose a different effect to perform. So you regain magic, you pull, blah, 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 all of these things. It's pretty crazy. Celestial is now different. It no longer does that weird thing with the life loss, whatever. Now it just gives you stun immunity, and if your chaos is high enough, you gain 3 armor. And then you can spend life to regain magic, and then you just regain magic. All in all, Celestial is definitely nerfed. But that's good because Celestial was busted. Stellar, simple. You know, it lets you push or pull the opponent 1 to 6. You regain 3 magic. So on and so forth. X is your chaos. Return this style to your hand. Regain magic. It's pretty good. So why would it have start Chaos plus 6? Chaos 6 plus return the style to your hand. Because there are points in time where you can just meta magical for plus 10 power. And that's not good. Like if you have 10 force, you just pump your chaos to 10 and then you have meta magical strike deal 14 damage. Not healthy, not good, not fun. But if you do chaos 6, that's still 10 damage. It's still crazy. Meteor is the same thing. So recycle if 6 plus chaos, trash this card and you gain 4 magic. So the crazy thing about this is that you can Meteor for 20. If you have 10 mana and 10 force, you can Meteor someone for 20. Is that a great idea? No. Is it a fun idea? Yes. Count you in for Indians RPG? People want it so bad. I've been telling Brad for centuries to do Indians RPG. But if you do want to play an RPG from our library, we have technically 2 storytelling games. One of them is Mystic Empyrean, which is an RPG about Eidolons who are gods that are determined by their personalities. So, the simple pitch is, if you role play and you're constantly aggressive in fighting people, you gain superpowers that essentially help you do that. Like, say, your blood turns into lava, or you explode every time you get mad. If you lie constantly and people think that you're such a devious person, you gain the ability to mimic other people's appearances. If you constantly never talk and don't do anything and you're constantly quiet, you gain the power to become invisible. So that's it. It's a game where your role-playing determines what your powers are. Soul King, what's the difference between Chaos and Magic? Chaos is the stat that allows you to activate the triggers on your cards. Chaos is gained by spending any combination of magic and or force. So that's the difference. You spend magic to gain chaos, which then triggers card effects on your styles, which could give you back magic. Yes. And if you don't want to do Imperial, you can also try out Power Play, a game of skullduggery, which is a competitive tabletop RPG. Just let that sink in. It's a competitive tabletop RPG where you fight your friends in a narrative story. It's fun. It's great. Force. For people who have not played the latest editions of BattleCON, there is now a resource called Force. There's 45 in the pool. You start off with 2. The opponent starts off with 2. You gain 1 at the end of each turn. During the anti-phase, you may spend 2 Force and put them in a trash can, deleting them forever, to gain either +1 power, +2 stun guard, or +2 priority. That's it. If the bag ever runs out of Force, like, and there's 0 Force in the bag, that's the timer. The game ends when there's no more Force left. No. Force is no longer a variant. It is now standard. You must play with Force. There's no longer a version of BattleCON you can play without Force. BattleCON has been standardized to always use Force. Because some characters interact with Force now. Alright. I believe that's enough for this stream. If there's any other comments, questions, or suggestions, just put them in the live chat or put them in the comments of this video. Again, I would like to thank you all so much for being with me on the stream. It seems that I found the correct time to stream. The internet did not cut off on me, not even once. And then the audio was great and everything. I do apologize for not muting my mic earlier. Hopefully nothing bad happened. And thank you so much. So the special action card is now no longer a special action card. It is now the special action, the switch style. And they're not mutually exclusive. You use the switch style and the force. Again, there is no longer any edition of BattleCON that works without using force. It is just now standard. So thank you all so much for listening, and thank you all so much for watching. I would like to thank all of you for being on the stream with me. If there are any other comments, questions, or suggestions, put them in the comment section down below. And thank you. So without much else to say, it's been me, your host, Marco DeSantos, also known as Mechanic Critic, and I would like to say thank you so much for watching, and thank you, World of Indians. Thank you, and good night. Don't forget your Switch style, and happy gaming.